Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Big Hairy Dog's presentation of QuickBooks Point of Sale. My name is Joanne Evans. I am the QuickBooks Point of Sale rep at Big Hairy Dog. For those of you who are new, who are not familiar with Big Hairy Dog and QuickBooks Point of Sale, Big Hairy Dog's been supporting retailers now for over 27 years with point of sale and inventory management systems. We actually have been supporting QuickBooks Point of Sale since the release about 20 years ago. And we have about 300 customers throughout the United States. QuickBooks Point of Sale is one of the most comprehensive and easy to use point of sale systems out there. It is a desktop application, which means that you own the system. It is not monthly fees. It doesn't live in the cloud. So you have access and you have control over all of your information. I'd like to welcome you all. It looks like we have a couple of attendees. It looks like we're waiting for a couple more, but we're going to go ahead and get started here. And if you have any questions at all, I understand all of you are on mute, but please don't hesitate to send a chat if you have a question, and don't hesitate to interrupt me if you have a question, and we'd like to get those answered before we move on to the next step. So just to give you an idea about the Big Hairy Dog, what you see here is your screen for the your main screen. So when you boot up in the morning, this is the screen you're going to see. A couple of things I'd like to point out. One is one of my favorite aspects of QuickBooks Point of Sale, because I do love sticky notes. You can put your notices here on the side. There is your inventory reminder, so that is going to be and we'll look at that in just a moment, what that entails. Any notes that you have, I'd love to have the support information here available so that my sales staff always has the access information to tech support. This window can be minimized so that during the day, this is what your sales associates will see. You can also pop up the messages at any time if you wanted to refer back to them. It's kind of nice too if you have some specialties in the staff room, and of course when we reopen staff rooms, but sometimes you can have cookies or pizza in the staff room, and you can notify your staff here as well. We'll go ahead and minimize. As I mentioned also, this is your inventory reminders, and let's take a look at what that's going to look like. So these are the inventory reminders, and you can see up here along the top that there are several options. We have our reorder point, so any items that have met their reorder point, and we'll go into that a little bit more as we go into the webinar, but you can set a reorder point for all of your items so that when they reach that reorder point, that you get a notice, and this is where you'll see this notice as to how many you have on hand and how many you set as your reorder point, so you know how many to order from there. You also have any price changes that you might have will be listed here, any duplicate items, any new items that you've listed, and any customer orders and their status. So these are unfulfilled orders for customers. So going back to the front page, one of the unique features of QuickBooks Point of Sale is not only the simplicity of use, but also the depth of reporting. And it has quite a robust system. We'll get into the reports in just a little bit, but as you can see, it's very simple to use. You have your 4 sections here. We're going to go ahead and minimize our notices here. So you have your point of sale section. In there you've got your customer orders, making a sale, your customer list, your reward manager, your end of day report, and any held receipts you might have and any open orders you might have. In your center section, we have our purchasing. So our purchase orders, receiving vouchers, history. This is where we'll see our item list, our department list, and our vendor list, and then any purchase orders that we have open. Down here below, it has an employee tracking. So you have your check-in, check-out. You can manage the time clock to see who's in and who's out. your time clock history for your pulling your reports for your payroll, and then your employee list. Over here on the right-hand side, you have your operations section, so your reports, mobile sync, which we'll talk a little bit about later on, store exchange, and this feature is if you have multiple stores, that from your headquarters store, then you send out your information to your remote stores and then receive the information. Sales and inventory alterations will come through your store exchange. Your financial center, QuickBooks Point of Sale, integrates flawlessly with QuickBooks Accounting. It's basically just a click of a button. If you look over here on the left-hand side, we have our send data to QuickBooks. And that would be an option if you were using the QuickBooks Accounting desktop versions. And it would literally just sync to the accounting package just with the click of a button. Over here, on the left side, now we're over here, is these buttons are customizable. You can add or remove buttons depending on your functionality and your flow of business. A little more about Big Hairy Dog before we go any further is that we also support and train for the system. We are one of the largest suppliers of QuickBooks Point of Sale, and by none, we have the best training program out there and some of the best support you can find. We dedicate a trainer to you when you join us, so you'll have a dedicated trainer that will take you through the setup of the QuickBooks Point of Sale, all the way from basically soup to nuts. So we have, because of the security and the preferences that are built into this system, that's one of the areas where our trainers will work with you to set up the system so that in the end, you're getting the information that you're looking for. So generally speaking, as I mentioned, the robustness of QuickBooks Point of Sale, the reporting is, for any merchant, is going to be your key component in tracking your inventory. And you know your inventory is your most valuable asset. It's also the area where you're going to be spending the biggest amount of your budget. So tracking your inventory is critical when it comes to merchandising. So to build your reports, we start with a foundation, and we'll go through that in just a moment here. In the meantime, I just want to check to see if we have any questions before moving forward. Okay, great. All right. So let's go into the building blocks or the foundations of the QuickBooks reporting. We start generally with our department list. And we'll go over here. So generally speaking, you can have unlimited number of departments. We generally recommend that you start with 20, about 20, somewhere in there, so that way you're not diluting the information for your reports too widely. So you can see we can have different layouts of our departments. For example, if you have sub-departments that you're working with, then you create your sub-departments. As you see here, we have home and accessories, and home and interior, and home and outdoor furniture. We also have the same thing can break it down by men and women or children, or you can break it down by casual wear and then have men and women. It just depends on what is going to be the best flow for you. And that, again, is something that our trainers will help you, assist you in setting up. We're going to go ahead and create a department. And let's call it, we'll assign a department code. And we'll call it children. And we'll call this children's playwear. And we see we have our tax code here. You have multiple options for taxes. This particular tax code actually contains all of my taxes, my state tax, my county tax, and my local tax. Again, that's something that the trainers will help you determine and help you set up, so you can adjust your taxes depending on if you have separate items that are taxed differently, if you're working with nonprofit. So there's a lot of different options you can have in here. for our margin and markup, and we're going to see how this comes into play a little bit further down the road. We'll go ahead and set our margin. So the margin we want to make on our items is going to be 65%. And if we move down to our markup, it automatically adjusts our markup for our items to 186. As I said, we'll see this a little bit more when we get into our items, when we're actually setting prices. And there's our departments. So the next building block in our foundation is our vendor list. Take a look at our vendors. So we have multiple vendors at this point. As you can see, let's select one here. So our carters, so we have, if you look in the details of our vendor, and let's go ahead and actually edit that, you see that we have our vendor code, if that's something that we're going to track. Let's do the RT. The contact information, so you have your address, the vendor's website, the phone numbers, etc., the contact information, their email. With the system, the point of sale integrates with your Outlook account, so you can email your purchase orders as well as your receipts. And it also integrates with Constant Contact, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. Over here also on our vendors, we have our terms, our account information, our history. So this is a very important aspect. Within the QuickBooks Point of Sale and all of your vendors, you have your history section. So everything you've done with this vendor since you started working with them, everything you've ordered from them, everything you've returned from them is going to show up here in their history. Over here on the right-hand side, we have our custom fields. So these fields there's 7 fields that you can customize. You can use any or all of them or none of them at all. But this area and all the white areas over here are reportable. So you can actually pull up this information on your vendor in your reporting. Any vendor notes that you want to put in here. This is not reportable, but if this is a custom that's best to order, say, order on Tuesdays is the best time to order from this vendor. If they have specific Christmas specials, great. For example, so all of this information is going to be in your vendor notes. We're going to save this and take a look. So as we can see, when we're looking at our list, we can see the details of each of our vendors over here. So going back, so now we've built the foundation. We have our department list and our vendor list. Let's go ahead and create an item. So as you can see, you can have almost unlimited number of items here in your list, depending on how you would like to see the information. This bar up here, where the item name, item type, this is customizable. You can add or remove columns depending on what you'd like to see when you take a look at your item list. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and create an item. And let's call it a child jumper. We're going to pull that from our children's playware. It's an inventory item. But just while we're in here, just to take a look, that you can have multiple divisions, whether it's inventory, non-inventory, if you're offering a service, for example, of tailoring or embroidery. And you can also have assemblies and groups, and that would be where you group your items together and sell them as a package. We're going to go ahead and select our inventory. We'll do item description. Let's put lace leggings. Okay. For size, for right now, we're just going to indicate that we carry this in small. And we'll go into that in a little bit later as how we can add multiple items basically with just adding one item. So if an item comes in different sizes and different colors, then we can create a grid within the item to indicate that. We're going to go ahead and pick our vendor here. Order. Now our order cost, let's say this is $15 for this item. We're going to put over here our average unit cost of $15. And it will, because of the markup and margin that we created in the department for our children's play, it'll indicate what our suggested price is. So we'll put 15 in here. And see, it suggests a price of $42.86. At this point, we can change that price if we want to round it off, $42.99. Or we could round it up. At this, as I said, you can put it to any point that you want it. Our quantity on hand right now is 0 because we haven't ordered this item yet, and of course we'll get into that later. What the tax is on this, the UPC code. If this is an item that you want to be able to track the UPC code, you can scan it here or input it here. A lot of my vendors or a lot of my customers will use it as an alternate lookup number as well. Down here we have our miscellaneous and shipping. So if this is an item that you're going to be shipping on a regular basis, if you need the weight, height, length, and width, then you can indicate that here. QuickBooks Point of Sale also integrates with your UPS account. So if you're going to be doing shipping from UPS, then it can actually create your shipping labels right from here. Our base of unit, we're going to select each. But with QuickBooks Point of Sale, you can actually buy in bulk. And that would, for example, if you buy by the case or, by the dozen, that can be indicated here. Your basic units of measure, again, these are something that your trainer would help you set up. If you're purchasing by the case or by the dozen, you can add those in there. This information over here is customizable as well. So you have your five different customizable fields. Again, these are fields that you can pull reports on. Sync to mobile. We'll discuss this a little bit further down the road, but QuickBooks Point of Sale with Intuit Merchant Services actually has a free app that you can download onto any mobile device. And if you're doing pop-ups or if you're doing trade shows, some of my customers do trunk shows, you can sync your inventory to your mobile device by selecting that item. It goes to your mobile device. The mobile device, you can create your sales. You can then sync back to your system, and it will adjust your inventory as well as your sales based on what you did on your remote site. So it's a very slick little device. Actually goes onto any device. It's a very slick little program that is very similar to what Square. It has a little credit card reader. The difference is that, first of all, the pricing is a little bit lower than Square. And the other, of course, the biggest advantage is that it does integrate with your point of sale. So we mentioned the sizing and attributes. So now that we have this basic information in here, if we had a picture on your computer, you could add a picture here. So let's go into the style grid. So the style grid is what gives us the ability to carry the item and show the item and enter the item in different sizes and different attributes. So we're going to go ahead and click on Style, save those changes, and it's going to pop up a style grid for us. We can save our style grids if we want, if we want to pull up one that we've used before, or we can create a new one. In this case, we're going to create a new one, and we're going to, just for simplicity, we're going to carry this item in small, medium, and large. And we'll carry it in white and denim and yellow. And so we're going to populate this grid because even though we don't have any on hand, we're indicating to the system that this is an item that we are actually going to carry. So we're going to save this. Now if we look over on our item list, you can see we have our child's jumper. We'll hide our details here. And we have in small, medium, and large in white, small, medium, and large in denim, and small, medium, large in yellow. As you can see for our quantity on hand, we don't have any on hand at this time. But we will in just a moment here. We're going to order these. But I just wanted to show you the simplicity of ordering. So now that we've actually created the items, all we have to do in our item list is highlight the items, go over here to our buttons and order the item, and our system creates a purchase order. We have all of our items here. We go ahead and select our vendor. Now what I didn't do in that is I didn't set a reorder point for these particular items, but if we did, we would probably want to order more. Obviously, we'd want to order more than what our reorder point is. And let's go back because I want you to see that feature. We're going to go ahead and cancel this right now. Let's cancel it. And let's go back to our item here and edit it. So if you see the reorder point, I skipped right over that. Apologize. Let's go ahead and set 5 for this particular item. And this is our small and white. And we'll go ahead and save it. Now, one thing I want you would like to point out to you is over here in the history. So already we have some history in here with our items. You'll see that with every item. You'll see the history. You'll also see the statistics of the item. So what type of an item is it? How does this rate? What's the trend on this item? And it show you your basics for your your totals and sales, your quantities received, your quantities sold. All of that history lives in each item in your item list. All right, so let's go back here and we're going to go ahead and highlight and order these items. Select our vendor. And let's go ahead and order 10 of these items. So, and if you're ordering, if your vendor requires you purchase online, you can still do that with the system. What we do recommend is using a purchase order once you place the order online for the #1 reason of being able to track your orders. You can track when you ordered the item, what your shipping date is, if you have a cancel date on there, and which one of your associates, if you're tracking your associates, which one placed the order. Go ahead and select Jennifer here. Down here, you can put your instructions to the vendor. So if you have any delivery instructions or any specific instructions can be input down here. So now your basic, this is your purchase order. We can go ahead and save that. You can save and print it. Let's go ahead and take a look here. There we go. Oh, PO number. All right, there we go, save and print. All right, and we'll just preview what it could look like. So this would be an example of what your purchase order could look like if you needed to print and mail them or fax them. He has all your information on here. And of course, you could put your logo and address up here in the center. Again, as far as setting up and customizing your purchase orders and sales orders, again, that's something that you would work with your trainer to help determine how you want it to look and what information you wanted on there. Up here, we have our purchase order information, the date, the ship date, and our associate. Okay. So now if we go back to our home page, we've input the item, we've created a purchase order, and our purchase order is indicating here that we have purchase orders that are open. So if we go ahead to view our purchase orders, you see we have 3 orders here. We'll go ahead and select the one that we just created, and we'll indicate that we want to receive these items. We'll select all, we'll continue, and now our purchase order now becomes a receiving voucher. So we have all of our child's jumpers on here. We have 10 items. If you received less than what you ordered, you would indicate that here, either with the little toggle button, or you can actually do it manually. If you received more than what you ordered, you can also make that indication here. We're just going to assume that we received all of the ones that we ordered. Now, from the receiving voucher, now we can print tags before we ever go any further, before the items go on the floor, before we have to go through any other process. Now that we've received them, we can print tags directly from the system. We'll take a look, we'll preview a sample of what the tags could look like. So here we have our department code, we have our vendor code, we have our item, the child's jumper, we have our description, we have our size and color, and we have the unique item number that's created within the system, and of course the pricing. And we highly recommend that you use the item number that's created in the system, and that prevents someone purchasing an item somewhere else using a UPC code and then bringing it to your store and scanning the UPC code to return it. So, and like I said, you can use the UPC code for an alternate lookup, but this is what we recommend as far as protecting your items. Now that we've ordered and received our items, let's go ahead. We'll save our receiving voucher. We'll go back to our item list. We'll look up jumper. And there's our child's jumper. And you see what we have on hand and see what we have available to sell. So one of the things we like to brag about QuickBooks Point of Sale is the 7-second sale. And unfortunately, I talked too long, so it's more than 7 seconds, but we'll go through the sale in detail and all the different aspects of making a sale with the QuickBooks Point of Sale. So by just clicking on that button, this pulls up our sales receipt. We have over here any optional items, any optional functionality that we want within the system. Just to give you an example, the Quick Picks. The Quick Picks are selected groups where, for example, if it is an item that is too large to bring up to the counter, or if it's an item that might be too small to scan. I work with a lot of the state parks up in the mining areas in Northern California, and they sell little bags of rocks. So obviously the rocks aren't going to all be labeled. So they could have those items set up over here in the Quick Pick group. Keychains, for example, might be too small. You can add from their Quick Pick groups, you can add an item, or you can indicate in the item itself if it's going to be a Quick Pick. Just by clicking that, you can add your item. Cancel that. And you can select, so your sales associates can select right from your Quick Pick group to add into your sales receipt. And normally you would scan your items. Let's go ahead and we're going to select our jumper here. We can add or remove quantities by either the toggle or, again, manually. Our customers, and we'll get a little bit more into our customers, but we have a customer list here. Let's go ahead and select Michelle. So what we can tell from our customer is up here we have Michelle. If we hover our mouse, we'll see that she is a rewards member, and she has $133.43 until her next reward. And this is something that the sales associates can let them know at the register that's creating more sales. We also have her email address. As I mentioned, you can email your receipts. So we have her email receipt, and if it's indicated that in her file, if we have permission to email her, then we can go ahead and email hers directly. I know here in California, they're encouraging merchants to go paperless, so this gives you that option within the QuickBooks point of sale as well. Also, her history, her last sales receipt with us. If you need to go into more detail, or if you need to change any information, you can access a file right from the receipt, and we see all of our statistics on this particular customer. We have her email address, and we have her indication that it's okay to email. Her customer settings, so what type of a customer she is. Let's go ahead and edit this. You can have different types of customers, whether you have a member or a VIP. A lot of stores give veterans discounts, and then whatever customer type, you can actually set a discount rate. Even with adding your employees in here, if you offer them a lower price, you can ring that up right within the system. The tax location and tax exempt if they're a nonprofit, whether you're going to accept checks or not for this customer, what their history is. So again, within the history, everything that this customer has done with us, everything she's purchased or returned. Her rating as a customer. This one is a 5-star. Her last purchase, and what her average sales are. It shows all of her history here. Her reward status, so it shows where she is with her rewards program. Over here in custom fields, again, you have 7 customizable fields that you can set up, that you can use or not. For example, having a birthday, or if they're related to a specific school or a church or other group, you can have all of those indications that their size. So if you have a reoccurring customer and you have their size on file, so you have that here, shoe size or color preference, anything that you want to put in here. Again, you can pull this information up in reports. We're going to go ahead and just cancel this. Now we have our customer, and we have their purchase. So with the QuickBooks point of sale, as I mentioned earlier, with an integration with Intuit Merchant Services, when you receive payment with a credit card, then that information it's just entering it within the system. QuickBooks point of sale can also work with additional merchant services. It was not integrated with the system, but it would still indicate your sales within the system, and at the end of the day, you'd pull up your batch reports. If you were using a separate system, you would have a separate credit card terminal. And with that terminal, once you receive the payment and close the sale here, you would, of course, run the credit card separately and have an additional receipt. So it's kind of a double labor. We always encourage you to take a look at the Intuit Merchant Services because of the, excuse me, the time saving and the cost saving aspects of it, as far as having your clients, your sales staff have to do a double entry at the time of the sale. You can also integrate gift cards with the Intuit Merchant Services, so that's an option if you offer gift cards. You can, within the system, we can actually have a multiple tender. So if this customer wants to purchase with cash, we can do that. And we have a pop-up. This customer has an automatic 10%, so we'll go ahead and accept that here. The customer, say, wants to pay $150 in cash and the balance with their credit card. We can indicate that here. And we pop up her credit card, we select her card, and then it closes out the sale. So it shows all of the sales transactions over here. As I mentioned, we can email the receipt to her, but let's take a look at what a sample receipt might look like. So we have, again, we have your logo and your information here. your workstation, store information, the actual items purchased, the tender, the merchant number, and what her reward savings are. And then, of course, this information can be any additional information or restyled information. Again, is something that your trainer would work with you to help set this up for you. Each receipt also has a barcode. So if they need to return or exchange an item, all you need to do at the register is scan the barcode and it pulls the receipt up. If you're working with your customer files, then it'll also store that information in their file, so that if for some reason they come back without a receipt, you can actually pull it up right from their file. Before this closes out, it'll show the rewards earned. And now we can choose to email this receipt to the customer. So that's our 7-second sale. It's normally, as you can see, there's a lot of components to it, but it would be very simple and very quick for your sales associates to receive the item, to scan the item, to take the tender, to pull up the customer information, and then close the sale. All right, any questions at this point before we move on to the next step? All right. Let's go back to the home page here. A couple of things I'd like to point out. No matter where you are in the system, you can always go back to the home right by the click of the button here. One of the nice features of QuickBooks POS version 18 is that you can have multiple windows open at one time. So if you're working in one window, you have to close to make a sale, you can go back to your list just with a click of a button. So we talked about the robustness of QuickBooks Point of Sale. And you're going to see that in your reports. And your reports, you can access your reports. You can set up a button here on the left-hand side. You can access from the upper menu, or you can access here in the operations menu. I want to take a look here at our dashboard. It's one of the things with QuickBooks Point of Sale that I find the most exciting is that all of my information, all of the reports that I want to see on a daily basis can be right here on the dashboard. I don't have to scroll through the menu of reports to find what I'm looking for, because these are the reports that I want to see on a day-to-day basis. With your reports, you can actually access the full report right from your dashboard. You can customize the dashboard any way you like, if you want to move items by repositioning them. You can do all that, save your changes, and now your dashboard is complete. To get to the reports that you're going to be posting on your dashboard, we'll go to the Report Center. Go to All Reports. And as you can see over here on the left, these are categories of all the different reports that you can pull up in QuickBooks Point of Sale. Your sales, your best and worst sellers, your inventory list, a summary in your departments, for example, date comparison. If you want to compare sales from one date to another, this year to last year, you can do that with this report here. Any graphs that you want to see, your demographics. Let's take a look at that one here. I don't have very many demographics here, but it would definitely show, let's go back here to reports. So you can see too with our items, you have your inventory turn, you have your summaries and details, any adjustments, your cost summary, your cost detail. Now any of these reports can be modified to and then saved to your dashboard. So just to modify, we can add or remove columns, we can change the filter, we can change the appearance of the report, and we can set the access level. Excuse me, one thing we haven't discussed at this point yet is security. QuickBooks Point of Sale has a very sophisticated security tier. So depending on how many people you have working or how many people you want to have access to how many different items, you can set your security tiers by each individual. So each individual sales associate would have their own login, and then they would have their own security. You can do it by category. So sales associates, assistant managers, accountants, for example. You can set your security levels for all those different groups of your employees. For this sample, we're going to go ahead and just add. Let's add workstation and status and associate. Go ahead and do that. We're going to save that. We're going to run this. So this is our cost adjustment detail, and shows what the adjustments, when the item was edited, what the status is. We can go ahead and memorize this report, and let's call it Monday's report. This will go to our modified memorized reports, and from here we can actually move it to our dashboard. We're going to move it to the front here. So that's where we have our report there. So now we can access it. We're going to save this. And now we can close our dashboard and go back to our reports. If we look down here on our memorized reports, down here we see our Monday's report that we just created and any other memorized reports that have been created. All right. So I'm going back to our home page here. Any questions at this point, folks? I know that we've covered a lot, but I definitely would love to make sure that if there was something that we went too fast through or we didn't cover at all, we'd definitely love to address. Well, I definitely would love to thank all of you for joining me for the QuickBooks Point of Sale presentation. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a system that is very robust, but very responsive and also very simple to use. Big Hairy Dog would love to go through more details with you. If you have any additional questions or you'd like to reach out to me, definitely would love to set some time up if you'd like to speak one-on-one. If there are no more questions, I'm going to let everybody go and wish them a happy and healthy day. And may you all get through this whole crazy time with in good health, and we're all looking forward to everyone getting back to business. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day.